and welcome to the Remote Work Movement podcast. I'm your host, Gonçalo, and today's guest is Anja Simic, the head of marketing from Deel. She is an amazing person, and her background includes Impact Hub and also AIESEC. And I was part of AIESEC also back in the days. So if you don't know AIESEC, you should check them out. They are a student network, and a lot of very famous and successful people were there during their student years. The same with Impact Hub. Nowadays, she's the head of marketing of Deel, but they also have a very, very interesting podcast called O Remote Podcast that you should definitely check out. Very, very cool guests there. In this conversation, we talked about everything regarding remote work, but specifically how to hire people globally. That's the problem that Deel is solving. So if you are really interested in growing your team, in hiring globally, make sure you are compliant in every single country where you are hiring. Deel is the place to go. So make sure you check them out at letsdeel.com. And now, please welcome the wonderful, beautiful, and amazing Anja Simic. So, Anja, welcome to the podcast. It's a big pleasure to have you here.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us who are you and what do you do for a living?
Okay, sure. So my name is Anja. I am from Belgrade, Serbia. And currently I'm working at Deel, which is a wonderful company helping out remote teams work together in terms of contracting, onboarding, and payments.
Nice. I see you studied Spanish, and you are actually the second guest in a row that studied Spanish, and I'm very confused.
Well, a bit of correction there. So I didn't study Spanish. I had a major in high school. I studied communications.
Okay.
Well, I'm not fluent, unfortunately, but happy to be mentioned as one of the students.
But you did study for 3 years Spanish, right? Even in high school.
4 years, yeah.
4 years, nice. And how do you think that helps you? Do you have the chance to speak Spanish nowadays, or not at all? You already forgotten about Spanish and you don't want to see Spanish ever again in your life?
Yeah, well, no, I would definitely like to hear it and speak it more often. I was always very passionate about languages. I think it came from an early age. My parents um, decided that it's good to learn languages, and I fully supported that. So I started first with French. Then I went into English, and then in high school I wanted to learn another language. So I thought Spanish, why not? It's a really popular language, a beautiful one as well. So I just give it a go. So that's how it all started.
I do prefer Portuguese, I must tell you, not because I'm Portuguese.
Well, okay, I can put it on my to-do list.
Just because I
Who
may.
knows, in a year, maybe we'll meet again and speak in Portuguese.
That would be wonderful. So then you went to university and you studied arts and communications?
Yeah, media and communications, but yeah.
Okay. But yeah, bachelor, because it says Bachelor of Arts.
Yes, that is correct. That sounds wonderful.
Yes, it looks great. So, and you ended up working on marketing, which is somehow connected, but now you are the head of marketing of Deel, a wonderful company that will speak a lot in this podcast, which is the whole goal of the podcast. But how did you try to re-educate yourself to, after some years, reach the head of marketing of a great startup?
Okay, so yeah, I took media and communications at university because I was always attracted to the topic. And I had a very good experience during my studies because I got to do a lot of practical things and I got to immerse myself in this whole media, communications, advertising, marketing in general. So I thought it's actually, I'm lucky to be the person who studies one thing and then decides to actually work in the field, which is not as common as you would think. So yeah, I was persistent, and all my positions that I've held in the past years were marketing related. I started, of course, as any young marketeer in social media. Then I moved my way up the ladder, and right now I'm head of marketing at Deel.
That is amazing. Even I have to speak about this because it's very dear to my heart, which is you were part of AIESEC for some years, and I was also. Why do you think I'm meeting a lot of successful people right now that were part of AIESEC, and now it's fun because it's 10 years past I've been there. You also were there. some years ago, and now we can see the people that left AIESEC, and we can see them being quite successful. Not everybody else are not being successful, but I see they are usually more successful. And if I see someone with AIESEC background, I know I have some expectations about them. What do you think there is in AIESEC? And for the people that don't know AIESEC, you can explain a little bit of what is it. But what do you think also that there is in AIESEC that are preparing us so well for the future?
So yeah, for the people who haven't heard about AIESEC before, AIESEC is a student organization. I think one of the biggest. It's present in 100 and something. I lost count, but many countries. And it's all about leadership and trying to prepare students for real life that's ahead of them. And I joined actually for all the wrong reasons, I have to admit. So I joined because I heard about it and I thought it was cool, and all the cool kids go there. A couple of months ago, I was part of a project that really had a big social impact in Serbia, in Belgrade. We worked with children who have difficulties in their development. So it was a really impactful project. And I decided that AIESEC is so much more than a cool student organization. It's a place that gives you the space and opportunity to develop, to explore, to get hands-on experience and some of the soft skills that are much needed. And yeah, I agree. When I hear that someone is an AIESEC alumnus, I also have expectations, which is another thing because AIESEC builds such a strong community that is global. And if you're fortunate enough, you get to be in a room full of people from different countries, talking about the same things, realizing that culture, religion, nationality don't really matter because we're all just there to do something good. And I think that's really important. And I can say with confidence that it really shaped me to the person that I am right now.
Exactly the same. I know people that 15, 20 years after being in AIESEC as a group, they are still getting together every single year
Yes.
in a place around the world. The last one, I know this because one of my friends is part of this group and they went to Bali. I was living in Bali last year and he was visiting me. Oh, yeah, we have a bunch of people coming here from an organization that I was part of. Oh, wow, that's cool. What organization? Oh, it's AIESEC. One is like millionaire, the other one is doing this amazing stuff. Yeah, I was part of AIESEC as well. And everybody's doing something amazing. The CEO and founder of Mind Valley, which is an education company from Malaysia, he is also part of AIESEC. I've met people from Vietnam doing amazing projects, also part of AIESEC. It's incredible the quality of people that leave AIESEC. And I think partly, and it's just my opinion. I think when you go to college, you have a choice. You can either go to party and just to pass through, which is like big part of the people, or you can decide to make a ruckus and to prepare yourself for the future. And that's where AIESEC comes because you work like a company, you have the responsibilities, you have many responsibilities as a company, and the outcome is amazing.
Exactly. And you're a volunteer, right? So it also builds you towards a certain direction, not to take things for granted, not to be selfish, but rather really do something good and get this whole energy from it.
Yeah, and it works. It works like a company, right? The structure is like very similar to a company, so it's like
It is. It is. Yeah.
that is, yeah. I think it's. I tell to all the people. I'm also a volleyball coach, or when I'm not traveling, I'm a volleyball coach, and I tell to all my kids that now joined the university like 1 year ago, and yeah, you should try a student association. AIESEC for me it's the best because I was there, but any other like that works as an association and as a company that has a good structure, yeah, you should definitely join. It will change the way you see the world and it will prepare you 10 times more than any degree that you decide to take.
It's true. And it's those soft skills that you learn at any student organization, AIESEC being one of them, are actually the most needed skills for work in general. And it seems that nowadays soft skills are way, well, I wouldn't say better, but more important than
More than ever.
yeah.
And moreover with remote work, all the soft skills, all the communication skills, all the people skills, people think that when they go remote they don't have to see people.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite. You have to have your communication has to be 10 times better than compared with an office where you can just face to face people.
Exactly, exactly. And I would add also cultural understanding. That's also another huge point when it comes to remote work, because it's not just how you say things, but you need to be sensitive because, for example, in Serbian culture, we are very I would say strong when it comes to words, and things that you say can sometimes be interpreted in the wrong way, that you're, I don't know, angry or dissatisfied or something else. And yeah, if you understand that there are people who understand words differently, especially, for us, I mean, English is not our mother tongue. So things can be kind of lost in translation.
That's another thing from Isaac. A lot of things are international. So, and I think everybody right now knows English. You study English until you're the end of high school.
Yeah.
But most of the people are afraid. At least I see that in Portugal. People here say they don't speak English because they are afraid of speaking it. Meaning they know all the basics because they studied it for like 10 years, but they are afraid of speaking. And when you don't speak a language, you forget about it, like Spanish.
Yes.
Uh, so I think it also helps because it's a very international structure, and you do have a lot of connections with international hubs from Isaac.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All good things. All good things. In my university, there was only one bad thing: is that the other people saw Isaacers as a cult, so something dark.
I think that's a worldwide myth. Yeah.
Something dark that people stay together all the time. They are always working. That thing is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's also, I mean, it's fun for members and alumni because wherever you go, we tend to just say like, "Hey, I've been to ISEC," and then people are like, "Oh my god, me too!" And for some magical reason, we become closer just by being a part of this organization. And it's understandable that in the eyes of people who are not there, that's kind of like, whoa, what's wrong with you people? How can you, like, why are you doing that? It's been 10 years, or it's been, I don't know, 5, 20 years. You still do that? Like, you're weird. That's a yeah, one of the myths.
You are still part of the cult.
Well, hopefully one day this will not be a thing, right?
Yeah, I think like these things are growing. People are understanding that university, like the degrees are not enough at all, and they barely prepare you for anything. That's why you mentioned that it's weird that you work in the thing that you studied, because most of the people work in something else. I'm the case. I have 3 half degrees and I don't work in any of them. So yeah, like
I mean, of course, it depends on the country, but a lot of universities programs are not fit to modern world, and they're not really preparing you for the future of work, but they are preparing you for this old fashioned thing. Like, I remember marketing, like when before I started university, marketing was one thing. Throughout my university, marketing became another thing, and next week it will be something else. So it's constantly developing. So definitely spending time at university and learning about something does not fully prepare you.
no, I think it teaches you the basics. And I studied marketing for 3 months. It was my last half degree. And the thing we were studying Kotler, which is marketing 101, the guy who invented marketing, which is interesting, but nothing that we were speaking about can apply to the fast-paced world where we are right now. Like, we were speaking about Kotler, about marketing plan for 5 years, and like nobody knows what will be the marketing in 1 year. Like, we have TikTok conquering the world, we have Google changing, we have Facebook getting older and older. Like, things are changing so fast that nobody knows what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I heard a funny story some time ago about a guy who went for a 2 weeks vacation, and during his time off, the algorithm, like Facebook algorithm, changed and ads changed, and he came back and he was like, "What is this? Like, I lost track of everything, and it's been only 2 weeks." So imagine what can happen in a year or two, right?
I know people when the biggest algorithm of Facebook changed happened, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe more. People that lost thousands and thousands of euros from one day to the other. Like they were having great reach, reaching 100k people to their websites, and suddenly they have like 5,000 people, like out of nowhere. It was like, oh wow, now what? But it was an eye opener as well, as you cannot rely in other platforms because you should have your own contacts or direct contact with client. That's why email marketing is still not dead, and that's why email marketing still works because it's the only direct channel you have.
It's really funny, in the era of Slack and other communication apps, people still use email, which I find really funny. Like it's one of the few things that really stood strong throughout the decades, and I don't think it will ever fade away. To be honest.
No, because all the other platforms where you are, imagine Facebook. If you're based, you hold your business on Facebook, Mr. Mark decides to change the algorithm, your business is dead.
Yeah.
The same if you rely on Instagram, and we are now in the point where Instagram is starting to fall a little bit because of TikTok.
Yeah.
And I spend much less time on Instagram. It's like more the same. But I know a lot of people, influencers, that the whole business is based on Instagram. What about in 5 years if Instagram decides to change things because TikTok is good, and what will happen to all these businesses that are Instagram only? So yeah, like it's better to have the email. Email is always there. You still need an email to log in on Instagram. You still need an email to log in on Facebook. So yeah, email is the safe choice. So then you went to another of my favorite institutions. This is fun because your background, when I was checking your background, it was like, oh, I love this. Oh, I love this. Oh, wow. So this has fun. So then you joined, like later in your career, you joined Impact Hub. And I love, there's an Impact Hub in Lisbon. I was checking in Brazil because I'm going there. There's also Impact Hub in Florianópolis, super strong. How did you end up in Impact Hub? And again, tell us a little bit about your work at Impact Hub because I love what they are doing there.
All right. So I have to go back to my student days and my AIESEC days. I'm really sorry for the people who have
No
not had
problem.
experience, but just another benefit, right? So my AIESEC experience took me to Austria. I was a part of their national team, and I spent a year in Vienna. And it was like I think 7 years ago when I was there, and Impact Hub was present in Vienna. It wasn't present in many cities, but it was present in Vienna. So a friend of mine worked there, and he told me like, "Hey, check out my office. It's really interesting. I know you will love it." So I walked in there, and for some reason, I immediately felt welcome, even though I was just visiting. It's just the first time that I walked in. But I felt this vibe of people just being open and being very international, and of course, coming from different backgrounds. So I spent a day there, and I was in awe with everything that I saw there. It reminded me of AIESEC, which is really funny. And I mean, it's not funny because a lot of people who were in AIESEC ended up at Impact Hub, which is kind of a natural path, I would say, because the values are quite similar. So yeah, I was in love with the place, and then a couple of years later, I actually got a message from a friend of mine who sent me the job posting, and she said like, "Hey, this is for you. This is so you." And it was another marketing position. It was actually for social media at the time. So I decided to join, and I was really really happy when they let me in. I spent almost 3 years working for Impact Hub, and I went from social media to digital marketing, which marketing being developed and digital marketing becoming a thing. So yeah, I ended up there, and I really enjoyed working for them because our main vision was to spread the word about impact, about social entrepreneurship in general. So it really was going hand in hand with I envisioned for myself at the time.
It is amazing. And they are super active here in Lisbon. They have events almost every day. Yeah, the work they are doing here. Now, Lisbon is a very good place to be for entrepreneurship. And Impact Hub is a big part of the whole social entrepreneurs. I think they are, for me, the biggest hub around here for social entrepreneurship. They are doing a great job. Even all the talks, they make the space available if you want to speak about social entrepreneurship, about some social businesses, etc. And the work they are doing here is, like, again, outstanding. And it's quite fun that you think it's a natural path, because I never thought about that after AIESEC, it's you want to make an impact in the world, so Impact Hub could be a natural second step for a lot of
Yeah,
AIESECers.
it could be, definitely.
Nice. So then we reach to the company that brings us here today, which is Deel. And I have to be honest, I have heard about you before. Until 2 months ago, I started to hear a lot about you. Maybe the head of marketing was working very, very well at the time. And then suddenly I'm working with Workfrom, and we are using Deel with several people there. And I was like, oh, wow, this helps a lot, because I'm a consultant. I help companies, remote companies, to implement remote work. And one of the most asked questions after how I trust my employees, how do I know that they are not playing Netflix the whole day, is how the hell I am going to pay to a distributed team. So you are exactly the solution for that. Can you tell us what is Deel and what you are doing to fix and to help remote companies pay their employees, which is kind of an important part of the remote work, the payments?
It is, it is. So Deal is a startup working around onboarding, payments, and compliance for independent contractors. So what we realized is that remote work is definitely a trend, maybe even more than that. I want to believe it's the future of work, but regardless, more and more companies are hiring remotely. More and more people are trying to step into this world of remote work. And there are a couple of questions that arise from company founders. One is how to onboard those people, because it's not just you get an online template contract and you just sign your name at the bottom and that's it. Like, it's much more than that. It's much more complex than that. And then on the other hand, how to pay people, because you have to run your business compliantly. You have to make sure that you're not risking your contractors' compliance or laws and regulations. So we wanted to create a solution that would be kind of one-stop shop for all of that. And I think that slowly we're getting there. I'm really happy that a lot of companies are joining and becoming our users, and they're actually really happy, because when you have to pay 20 people, right, and they're in 20 different countries, you have to do it manually. So for one person, a wire transfer is the best option. For other three, it's PayPal. For some, it's Payoneer. For some, it's something else. So it's really annoying to spend so much time sending money through different payment methods and making sure that you have all the documents and you have all the, I don't know, invoices, receipts, contracts, etc. So we try to make that easier for people.
And how does it work for the companies? Let's say I have my company, Remote Work Movement, that is a company right now. I don't hire people yet, but I will have to hire in the future, because, yeah, just too much work. As you said, remote work is exploding, and it's definitely the future of work. At least if it's not, my work is very pointless. No, it is the future of work for sure. How does it work for the companies? How can you tell us a little bit of how is the process? So when the company decides to use Deel, how is the process from the first hire, what do they have to do in the platform, until the first payment or the first month? How is the process with Deel?
Okay, so the process is actually quite simple. So if you are a client or company, you would come to Deal. First of all, you can request a demo so we can actually show you around before you decide to join us. Once you do, hopefully, we would then help you onboard your contractors. And the first step is creating a localized contract. So how it works, we have different local labor law compliant contracts for a lot of countries. We are working with network of lawyers that specialize in local labor laws. So you would create a contract, and then based on your location and location of your contractor, we would generate a contract for you. Then you can review it, you can sign it, you can make adjustments. What's really cool is that you can actually choose type of contract that you want, because not all remote workers work full time or work for a full time salary or a fixed salary. So we offer different types of contracts. You can have a full time contract. You can have a milestone based contract if that's something that you want, and you can have also pay as you go contract where you, for example, if you work per hour, you can submit your hours, and then based on the rate you get as a client, you get invoiced at the end of the month. So a lot of flexibility. And another thing, when it comes to your contractor's payday, you can actually pay them in a click.
Nice. So yeah, that is a game changer. As a lot of people are just they usually need to hire someone just to take care of all the payments. So you are almost destroying the job of this person and making it very very easy to embrace everything. Now I said that in the funny way because yes, like it's a pain in the ass to be honest to the whole payments and the whole legal process. And for example, I'm in Portugal, my company will be somewhere else, and it's just like okay, I want to hire someone from Bali. How the hell do I do it? And legally, it's very, very hard.
Yeah. So another really, really good thing is that you as a client can choose your preferred payment method, and then you as a contractor can choose another payment method that works for you. So, for example, a company can do a wire transfer, and then the contractor can withdraw with PayPal, for example.
Nice. What are the most used countries that you have right now for the contractors?
We have so many. It's insane because when we were starting out, we were not sure how it would work, who would be attracted to the platform. Of course, you have remote talent everywhere. That's why it's called remote, right? So we actually have people from all over the world. We have people in Asia, we have people in Europe, in the States, Latin America. So yeah, we're truly global when it comes to our user base.
That's nice because again, one of the things when I'm in Bali, a lot of people want to hire local people.
Yeah.
Kind of to give back, you know. So we are there. We see that people have locals have really really good talents, and sometimes it's very hard to stay compliant with hiring someone from Indonesia with our company in the US, for example. Just thinking about that, most of us have our own business, or we are two or three, so we don't have the time to go through lawyers. Like it's the pain is just too big to hire. So do you think that by providing this solution, would you also be helping local people from companies where the legal side of contracting is very, very, very painful, and be helping as digital nomads and remote workers to hire from countries like Indonesia, like Malaysia, any country, even to have a local impact? Would that be one of your goals for the future, or is it already maybe?
Well, it's in the map for sure. I
Yes.
think it's really important to. So, for example, if you're working or want to hire from a company that you've never been in, or you don't know the local laws, or you don't speak the language, right? Because unfortunately, not everything is available in English, which is a huge roadblock when you're trying to get someone. And smaller companies, startups included, don't often have the resources to hire lawyers, right? Because it comes to money, time, etc. So they're looking for different solutions. Our compliance team works really hard to collect all the necessary documents on both sides. So, for example, if you are a user on our platform and if you want to hire someone from Indonesia, as you mentioned, we would have a list of documents that you need as a contractor in order to work compliantly. So we try to mitigate the risks, and we try to give you as much information as we can. And of course, we can also refer you to one of our partners who are lawyers in their countries who help with that's also something that we do. We can connect you with one of them.
Nice. I would love to see you partnering with local associations and give more jobs to people from poor countries. And because I think the beauty of remote work is that we can really impact how countries that have a lower quality of life, lower salaries, we can help them grow through great salaries or by paying them above average with a remote company. And this is the first time in ever that we can actually have an impact at the same time as we have the best talent in the world working for us. And I think Deal is in the perfect position to be the mediator and the promoter of this movement.
What a time to be alive, right?
I say that every day I wake up, I see how many stuff I have to do, and then I smile. I was like, yeah, it's a good year. Let's do this. Do you have any data on the percentage of full time versus part time that you have contractors in the platform? Is it more part time or full time?
Yeah, I don't have the percentage because, as I mentioned, when it comes to nationalities and when it comes to different types of contracts, we deal with them all, pun intended. So we try to offer this flexibility. So I would say that there are a lot of people who work on hourly rates. So in our case, that's called pay as you go, because especially if you're just hiring or if you want to give probation periods to your contractor, you would probably hire them per hour. Also, if you have consultants or people who are your, I don't know, on retainer basis, designers, for example, or I don't know, developers, etc. A lot of them work on an hourly rate, so I would say it's quite popular. But then you also, after the probation test period is over, you move to full time. So we have a lot of them. So I would say it's split between full time and hourly rate.
No, I think they're changing. I think we have less and less full time jobs. And I see more and more people moving to freelancers. And I think all the studies actually in the US say that in 10 years, by 2030, we'll have around 50% of whole job market will be for freelancing and contractors, which is insane.
Yeah, which I think is great, right? Because you get to be your own master, and you get to choose what you want to do instead of just working for one company. And I think it's really great because a lot of people unfortunately need a job, and they would settle for anything that brings them money. But I think nowadays things are shifting a bit towards work-life balance, well-being, more self-fulfillment, and naturally this flexibility comes in, right? Because you can choose to work for 10 different clients if that's what you wish, or you can choose to work with two. And I think it's just the beauty of remote work.
And you never get bored. So one of my biggest challenges as my personality is ENTP. I'm not sure if you are inside the Myers-Briggs test,
Yeah, I
but
did. Of course I did it.
it's something that changed my life. And if you guys haven't never done it, just search for 16personalities.com and you can find your personality type, which is can change your life if you are not aware of it yet. And so I get bored all the time with when I'm working for a company because I like to tackle different challenges. And I started as a freelancer when I went remote for the first time. I started as a freelancing doing email marketing, and I was having a blast just working for like 5 clients at a time. My life was chaos, a little bit like it is now, a couple of years afterwards. But I was having fun. And I was empowered. I could make more money, or if I wanted to go to somewhere remote and have no connection, I could do it for a couple of months without work with the money I got before. So we don't have to work the 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, get your salary, and just be here seated in the chair type of thing. Right now, we have the power, and there is a ton of marketplaces where you can actually get freelance jobs and you can be an expert and have the power to own your own life instead of just giving 8 hours of your day to random people, which is insane in the benefits that can bring to your life.
Yeah, of course, of course. 9 to 5 doesn't really make sense when it comes to remote work, especially if your team is global, because your 9 to 5 is someone else's middle of the night, right? So you also have to adapt. And a lot of people that I talk to that still work in offices ask me like, okay, so how much do you work, or do you just work all the time? Because there's always someone online. And I don't. I mean, I really don't. There are days where it's all hands on deck and we really need to power through the day to push a feature, for example. And there are some days where it's more laid back, where you get to, I don't know, work on some other things, where you get to maybe get creative and come up with, initiatives that you can implement. So I really think that like remote work is changing the way we live, not just changing the way we work.
Yes, I totally agree. And I can see for myself today. I was telling you before we started recording, I went in the morning for a brunch. I started to work at 12, and like no company would ever let me do this, but I can do this because I work for several clients like a freelancer, although I have my own business, but it's just a different type of changing your work for money. And I can do that. And if I want, I have this interview, I have some more calls, and I can just go away, or I can choose to work and grow my business. It's my choice. And by having the power to do that choice, like, I doesn't mean I work less. No, right now I work more because I think we are in a very exciting time in the remote work movement. So I'm actually working.
Yeah, exactly. And you're happy to be working more than 40 hours a week, right? If
Yes.
your job excites you, you're not counting the hours.
Exactly, but then I know, because in the summer, at least all Europe shuts down July and August. Like, in August, there is no companies opening in Portugal. We just close everything and go to the beach. That's how it works here. So I know that part of Europe will be on vacations in July and August. So I can work 10 hours a day now, and then maybe in July and August I'll be traveling around Europe, hopefully to Serbia as well. And I can just work 5 hours and keep my business going instead of just working 10 hours. I can have the choice of working only in the morning and have the afternoons to explore. It's my choice because I own my time. I don't have to give my time to any company. And that is where the work life balance I'm having a blast. And I think most of the people that I know are for the first time in Portugal, where just to give you some context, Portugal is a country that people value the rights and value the, like, I have my rights. I work 8 hours, but I have my rights. And for the first time, I'm giving training to people about how to start working remotely. And most of the people, I would say 80%, want to be freelancers. They don't care about the rights anymore. They want to go freelance because of the freedom. And it's the first time ever that I see Portuguese people wanting to work as a freelancer and not with safety.
Exactly. Yeah, it happens across the world. It's not just Portugal, right? Like it happens all around. But I think everyone should test and see if freelancing and remote working is something they like, because truth be told, it's not for everyone. I mean, I would like to believe that, it will be 100% remote in 20 years from now, but it will not, because some people prefer actually, waking up, dressing up, and coming to the office. So I think it's a choice. I'm a huge advocate, for remote work. We wouldn't be talking about this here if I wasn't. But I think they should try and they should test it out for a couple of months, see if it works for them. And if it does, amazing, go ahead, live your life remotely. But if it doesn't, it's also okay, right? Like, we're not all meant to be working remotely.
I kind of disagree with you, but I want to ask you a little bit more questions about this. So you say it's not for everyone. What skills do you think that people need to work remotely? That if you don't have them, you should not even, like, you should try, but you probably not fit into a remote work environment.
There's so many, right? So we have the usual suspects. So communication skills is one of them, and I think we touched the topic before when we talked about how words can come across differently to different people. So apart from that, I think the biggest skill that you need to have is self drive, if I can call it a skill. But for the sake of conversation, let's call it a skill, because it can be tough, right? Like if you're not seeing your colleagues or coworkers every day, if you cannot get a response from them in like 5 minutes time, you need to be self-driven to still make decisions, still take responsibility. And if you're the only one working at a certain hour, you still need to be there, right? Because if you're working from home, for example, there are lots of things to do, right? Like you can take your dog for a walk, you can do laundry, you can do something else. And if you're not feeling motivated to work, like doing the dishes will be more fun than working. But if you have things to do, you need to be really focused and you need to pay attention to it. So I would say that is one of the biggest things. And I don't think that you are born with it. I think it comes with experience. So I mean, all the skills can be learned, right? Your approach will be different, but the skill can be, anyone can learn a certain skill. Except maybe me learning math. I will never be able to do that.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But yeah, I'm more into social sciences.
But do you think that we can teach self-drive to people on ownership? Because I believe that everyone can work remotely, just that we are not preparing people well enough to do so. It's very different to work from an office and work remotely. Like, self-drive is much more important. Taking ownership of your work is much more important. But I think if the structure of the companies, or if you structure your life as a freelancer on a way, and you learn how to set up your day, how to set up your life, how to set up your work to be productive, do you think we can teach these people that we think in the beginning they are not we think they are not suitable for remote work because they just get lazy, they go to the couch, there is Netflix in the house, it gets very difficult for them? Can we teach them to work properly and remotely, or do you think there is just no way for these people? They should just go to the office and do their own thing in the office.
I want to believe that it can be taught. So you can definitely push yourself and really work and power through it. But I think there are a couple of things that need to be in place in order to have that. First of all, companies need to build organizational cultures that are remote based. So remote lifestyle is not a given. So even if you're a startup of 5 people, you need to have remote work practices in place to make sure that you support your colleagues, to make sure that you support people who are less motivated, to support people who are super hardworking, who work 12 hours a day and don't stop, and then eventually get sick. So we need to have that within companies. But then another thing, if you're freelancing and you don't have a company, I think you should reach out to fellow freelancers and ask for their help, or at least ask about their experience, because it's not always easy to find yourself with piles of I don't know, notes around you and things to do, and you just get stuck. But I think a lot of places, co-working places, for example, offer exactly this kind of support. Because if you're not sure you can do it on your own, and if you can do it from home, I would suggest that you go to a co-working space, you just find a place and then explore. And yeah, I think it's really
Amen.
yeah, a lot of things are great about remote work, but one thing that I really like is this openness when it comes to people who work in the remote community. I experienced myself reaching out to people just by sending an email or a Twitter DM saying like, "Hi, I would love to talk to you about this. Do you have time to talk?" And I've never received a no, regardless of the person, the seniority, the country. We're all connected, but I think we need to explore that a bit more.
Yes, that's something special. Even for this podcast, I never received a no, ever. I've interviewed everyone I wanted to interview. That's how easy it goes because everyone wants to share something about this movement. Everybody is sharing so much. And we see GitLab, for example, they share all the information about how they set up their teams, how they motivate, have the handbook. They share everything. And this is the first time where I see companies, private companies, sharing that much about how they work. Why do you think it's that? Why is remote work, are remote workers and remote companies sharing the way they work, and instead of just exploiting that for their self advantage? Because let's face it, GitLabs, etc., they get advantages from being so open about remote work. Most of the people would love to work for GitLab, for Buffer, for Zapier, because they promote themselves very well as remote work first and only, no offices mindset. But why do you think they want to share and they take that effort to build content just to share with other companies?
In a sentence, because they've been there, and I think that's a huge starting point. So if you're trying to build a company that's remote first, and if you did that a couple of years ago, it was almost impossible for you to succeed at first, right? So it was more of a hit or miss type of situation. So some companies, the ones that you mentioned, really built a great structure and really built, I wouldn't say a process because that's too, I think, stiff for a word to talk about this, but they figured it out. And I think it'll be selfish of them to try and tap into this global community, because all of them have global target audiences, right? Without sharing that experience. It's just impossible for you to figure things out on your own. You have to reach out, you have to talk to people. You will probably find yourself talking to a remote CEO or a founder saying like, "Hey, I tried this, it doesn't work, here's why." Or you should definitely invest in retreats, for example, or invest in some other thing. And I think we're there to lift each other up because I think eventually all of us will benefit from a bigger remote movement, right? So it doesn't make sense to just keep it to yourself, right?
Yes, and I think most of them are also seeing the impact that remote work can have in their employees' lives, for example, because the impact is huge. Being able to grow a family or travel or whatever you want to fulfill in your life, you are not stuck in one place forever anymore. And that just having that freedom and giving that power to the people again is like insanely good for their productivity, which in regards will then be great for their companies. So that's amazing. But I want to go a little bit back because I found just recently that you were in Y Combinator, and one of my other remote favorite companies, Safety Wing, was also there. So I see that there is a trend here. Like Y Combinator is looking into remote work, and they know that remote companies, they know that this trend is growing. They are betting a lot in companies that are making a ruckus with remote work, like you guys and Safety Wing. What is the benefits for you that you are feeling there? I know you are not so connected. You are not inside the program in San Francisco. You are based in Europe. But what advantages are you seeing in the growth of your business?
Yeah, so my founders, co-founders, Sho and Alex, were more involved in Y Combinator. They applied and then they went through the whole process. But I was there as a bystander, and I was actually in San Francisco just before the final demo day, which is the kind of graduation point for Y Combinator. And I saw that I will, of course, speak for Deal, but I saw that talking to a lot of mentors and Y Combinator partners helped us all reach the point where we are. Because when you're building a product, you start with this great idea that you believe will change the world, but it usually doesn't just happen, right? You need to go through several iterations, you need to find the product fit, market fit, you need to tweak things along the way. And Y Combinator is this condensed space where you're constantly pushed to make decisions, to try, to fail, to get inputs, feedback, and start all over again. So I think that's the biggest benefit that we got out of it because Deal now is certainly not Deal that it was a year ago.
So you definitely have a market fit as people are just embracing Deal and you are all over the place. What is now your strategy to grow? So you are in the place where I think you know what is your product, you know what is your market, what is the next year looking for you in terms of growth?
In terms of next year, well, with any startup, it can really go in any direction. So what we are focusing right now, and this will definitely be the focus for the next year, is really listening to our users because a lot of features that were developed were requests from our users. So if a company comes and says like, "Hey, we love the product, but we're missing this and this. It will make our lives easier, things faster, etc." We really try to listen to that and build it on the go because we're people who don't know everything, right? And we truly don't want to think that we know everything. But we listen, and for some things it doesn't make sense because it will drastically change the product, and it's not the direction we're going for. We will for sure keep the independent contractor niche. I can call it a niche, but we're trying to scale it and to introduce more features and more integrations. I would say that can potentially help even more people.
Nice. And how do you choose how to listen? Because one thing I figure out is that everybody has an opinion nowadays. Everybody wants something, and it's very hard sometimes as a startup. And I faced that before to choose who should we listen to because some feedback just goes in different directions. How do you guys at Deal choose who are the right people to listen?
Yeah, well, we listen to everyone. We hear everyone.
Good point.
And a funny thing, because we have a live chat on our website, and it's actually one of the best channels ever because we get to talk to our users, we get to talk to people who found us randomly online, and we also talk to people who come to us thinking we're something else, which I think is really important because if you have too many people coming asking you for something that you're not offering, it's a feedback, right? Like you need to stop and think like, is your messaging okay? Like, are we missing something? We need to tweak that. And the people behind customer support and behind the chat are actually the two co-founders and me. So we are the three people that answer customer support chats and tickets. And the three of us have a very clear vision, I would say, when it comes to where we want to be and what we want to do. And we just really enjoy talking to our customers. Like they know us, they know who we are. We're not just some customer support agents. We really talk to them. And once we collect that feedback, we come and say that to the product team, and they decide if that makes sense, if that will become a part of the roadmap, or if it doesn't fit the trajectory, they will postpone it. But it's never just written off. Like we never say, no way, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. And you are quite a small team, right? How many people do you have?
We're 11 people. Hopefully,
Wow.
we'll be a bit bigger because we're hiring some people as we speak.
So time to promote yourself. Who are you hiring? Tell us. Maybe there's something when someone in the audience, people are looking for remotes.
Yeah, of course. So currently, I mean, we're always looking for full stack developers and developers in general because it's kind of the heart of the whole operation.
Everyone is fully remote, right?
Exactly. All positions are fully remote. You can be on Mars as long as you're comfortable and have Wi-Fi.
As there is Wi-Fi.
Go for it. Apply. We're looking for a head of growth. So I'm finally getting someone to join me in my marketing endeavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're also looking for sales and business development people.
Nice. Yes. So basically, you are looking to grow as hell in the next years, right?
Yes.
And how are people right now finding about you? I found you through one of my companies, but how do you think now? Do you see and that you gather? How are people finding about Deel?
There are, I think, two things. So first one is word of mouth, which I think is always the most powerful channel out there. So we get a lot of people who just heard about us or from our users or from people who just came across our product, which I think is great. Like that's if you know you're doing something right when someone comes from a recommendation from a third party. That's wonderful. The second main path is actually our content. So we write a lot of content around different setups for independent contractors in different countries, different regulations, different remote work resources. And actually people share that, people find it interesting because it's not that easy to find that information, especially the ones when it comes to setting up as an independent contractor in certain countries due to language, due to government SEO strategies.
Or lack of.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the two main channels.
Nice. And do you think that contractors could also be one of the main promoters for Deel? So we have contractors right now that work for companies all over the world, with clients all over the world. Even for them, this can be a big pain. Are they also part of your high word of mouth promoter people?
Yes, they are. They are. I talked to several people who are independent contractors, and when they ask me about what I do and when I tell them, like, oh my God, this is amazing. I need to tell my boss, give me your website. So again, it's word of mouth and it can be anyone's mouth.
As long as it's good. Nice. So we are just ramping up to the last questions. And my next one is a big one. Like you are a startup, you can go anywhere right now. What is your 5-year mission? Where do you see Deel in 5 years?
Personally?
Exactly. This is introspective. This is almost philosophy now, but just like, it's a little bit more like, where do you want to go? So what is your direction and how big do you want to be in 5 years?
I would love to see Deel being a true player in enabling more people to work remotely. So currently we're solving issues or tackling hurdles of existing companies, but I want us to be true advocates for remote work. And I want us to be represented in the community that if someone wants to open a remote company, they know they can because they can be on Deel and it can make things easier.
Nice. I like that. So welcome to the space. This is a great mission to have, as it's my mission as well. So I have to share that one. And where do you see this is even worse. If you thought that the 5-year question was difficult, wait for this one. So things are changing quite fast. 10 years ago, we were in 2010. Nobody would think that most of the people would be able to work from anywhere in the world, that you can be in Bangladesh working for a company from the US. Where do you see this going in 10 years? So 2030, 5G, 6G, who knows? There'll be a lot of cheese. Internet will be probably spread out around the world. How do you see the landscape of remote work going? Will this be spread out all over the world? Will still be a niche? What do you think it will happen in the next 10 years? We'll not speak about automation and AI taking over the world.
Yeah, of course. I think it will definitely spread, but I would really like remote work to be not like a perk, but actually like a huge benefit, if not a standard. Another thing that I would really like to see is this shift in mindset that people from like companies from the West hire people from, I don't know, Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia because their rates are cheaper, or, the rates are lower and the costs are lower. I really want us to kind of break this prejudice that, I can hire people remotely because it will cost me less. No, I will hire people remotely because there is someone out there who's a perfect fit for me, regardless of where they are.
Do you think that remote work can help balance the income around the world?
Potentially, yes. Hopefully the governments will follow, because recently there have been many governments rising up to the challenge and introducing different regulations. It's happening in the US, in the UK, in Serbia even. So I think it would definitely positively impact the economy, but I think we're a little bit behind when it comes to processes, taxes, borders in general. But hopefully it will not be an issue.
Yeah, I think it will have the potential to balance. I think when someone in India can earn the same as someone in the US or someone in Europe, then it will be even able to rehire, or will be thinking about opening their own company, as you mentioned, instead of just working for other companies. Why not open my own company in Indonesia, in India, or hopefully
Yeah, exactly.
hopefully
Exactly.
in the future we'll have more projects like e-residency in Estonia, and you can open your company from anywhere, right?
Yeah,
So when this is a reality, why not having your base in Bangladesh?
it's not just opening e-residences. I think governments need to work on setting up statuses that would enable remote work, because independent contractor is not a status for remote work. It was there decades ago. So we should definitely work towards that, to create a structure and process that will truly support remote work without the huge compliance risks.
Yes, even around the world, like I see big issues. I cannot be in Spain, for example, working legally, working for a company from the West. There is a lot of issues. The same in Egypt. Leo Martin was a guest, the CEO of Time Doctor shared. There is someone from Egypt government that said, no, like we don't want remote work. If there is remote workers here, tell us. They have to pay taxes. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly. Because people, like government people, think that remote workers are kind of like stealing away from the governments by not paying taxes. But all of that can be solved with the proper structure in place. We can just be one global market.
yes, I think we, as remote workers, as companies that promote remote work, are a big part of the solution, and also in helping the local governments. I'm trying to work with mine. I'm sure you are trying to make a ruckus in Serbia as well, as where Serbia is really remote friendly. At least the people in the co-working spaces. And so, yeah, I think we are a big part of the solution, and we as early adopters have this mission behind us if we want to take on that mission to help the remote work spread around the world. So this is my last question. Your time is free to make any request, to share whatever you want to our listeners. The audience is yours. What would you like to share with everyone? It can be an action, it can be an idea, it can be a message. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I feel so honored to have this. First of all, I would love to thank you for this opportunity. I had a blast meeting you and talking to you. I love that remote community is just such a vast space for exploring ideas and initiatives. I would invite anyone who wants to learn more about Deel to reach out on social media. We're big on Twitter, so it's at Deel with double E. We're also on less popular platforms like Facebook, but we're also there. I'll be happy to meet you there, because I'm actually the one responding to all the messages and posts. feel free to reach out through our website. We're also there. It's letsdeal.com. And yeah, hopefully I'll meet a lot of new people from this podcast.
Yes, I'm sure as we are receiving really great feedback. And my goal is exactly promote the right companies in this space. Sometimes it's hard to find them, but Deal is definitely one of them. Anya, thank you very much for your time. I had a blast as well, and I can't wait to see you grow in the next 5 years and become the voice for contractors in the remote workspace. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Anja Simic. She's really, really, really an amazing person, and you should definitely follow her everywhere you can. I advise you LinkedIn, and if you happen to be hiring globally, make sure you check Let's Deal. They are doing an amazing job, and they were recognized as one of the top startups at Collision Conference. So very, very, very interesting startup that is growing a lot this year, as you can imagine. So make sure you check them out at letsdeal.com and also their podcast. Let's Deal is doing an amazing podcast, inviting the best people, hiring remotely all around the globe. And it's called All Remote Podcast. It's a very interesting one, so make sure you check that out as well. As always, see you in the next one with some beautiful guests. Have a wonderful week, and bye bye.